welcome to the 7th episode of Skirt Pattern Making with Bunka method. Today we are discussing how to create a flared skirt with drawing circles. We'll work on full circle skirt, half circle, 3/4 and quarter circle skirts. Of course, the full circle has the most volume at bottom of hem and the quarter of a circle has the least. So based on the style you have for a skirt, you can choose any of these patterns for your skirt. If you need even more volume, you can use 2 circles or 1 circle and a half. So let's dive into the full circle diagram first and see what is the logic of creating this circle. For drawing this circle, we need only 2 measurements: radius of the circle and the skirt length. So the skirt length is based on your style. You can choose any measurement that you like based on the length of your skirt. For radius of the skirt, you should divide waist measurement by 6.28. But where does it come from, this number? You know, the formula for the radius of a skirt is the perimeter. The formula for radius of a skirt is the perimeter of a circle divided by 2 multiplied by 3.14, which is the pi number. Our perimeter for this circle is our waist measurement, and we need to divide it by 6.28 to calculate our radius. However, just note that this waist measurement is without the ease. As you know, we always add 1 centimeter ease for the waist for the comfort. So when you are dividing, just know that you should add the waist to 1 centimeter. You can see this is mentioned in the second diagram on the right when we are calculating the waist. So let's start creating the pattern. First, we take measurement from the avatar, add it to 1 centimeter and divide it by 6.28. It gives us 12.48 for the radius of our skirt. Then we add it up with the skirt length, which I have chosen to be 65 centimeters, and I get the number 77.48. So I draw my big circle first with this radius, and then with the internal polygon circle, I draw the small circle with the radius of 12.48. Then right click on the small circle and cut it as a whole. Then with internal polygon tool, I draw my center front line, center back line, and side seam, and my pattern is almost ready. So let's look at our diagram again. If you want to cut this on the fabric, it's better to have the center front line on the fold, and we see that there is an opening on the side seam, so I can cut my side seam on the right so that I know there is a seam there. And as you know, there is a small adjustment on the waist at the back. The back is brought down by 0.5 centimeters, but since we want to keep the waist measurement as is, so we need to also adjust our side seam so that our back waist measurement stays same. Now we can draw the waistband. Drawing waistband is easy. Just take the waist measurement plus 1 centimeters and draw a rectangle with that width and the height of 3 cm. Now we can arrange pieces in 3D. Put the waistband in the correct position, and with the gizmo tool we can place the skirt in the right position and then simulate. Now we can apply the fabric. For this skirt, I have chosen a double weave fabric, which has the composition of wool and nylon. I choose the color blue, and I wanna follow this image for decoration. So I apply some ribbons on my skirt. If you are interested how to add these ribbons, it's very easy. You can have an image of a white or red rectangle, save it as PNG in your computer, then go to the top stitch tab and create a ribbon, and in the texture section you can apply this image that you have already saved. And now you can draw some internal lines on your skirt. I've chosen 10 centimeters away from my waistline and 4 of them. Then I apply these top stitches on my skirt. The last point about this skirt is that this kind of skirts have a tendency to stretch out on the parts that are on the bias grain line, so the length of a skirt might grow at some parts. So it's better if you actually have cut this on fabric and have sewn it before sewing the hemline. Hang it for 24 hours so that it can stretch out as much as possible. Then measure it again and trim it if needed. You see in the diagram there is a dotted line, it shows that trimming, and then you can hem your skirt. Okay, this was about the full circle. Now we can move to half circle and 3/4 circle. As you see in the diagram, they are very similar. The logic of creating these patterns are very similar to full circle, only you need to cut a quarter of the skirt and throw it away for the 3/4 skirt, and for half circle you can only use half of the circle, so it is obvious that your volume will reduce. I'm going to make a half circle for you as well, because there is a diagram here showing how to cut it on the fabric. Again, I draw the big circle first by calculating the radius, which is waist measurement divided by 3.14, and then I draw the smaller circle and cut the smaller circle as a whole. Draw my internal lines for center front and also mark my center back, and remove the part that I don't need. So this is almost ready, but as you see there are small adjustments in the second diagram, in the third diagram, sorry, in this page, that shows we only have 4 panels. So it means that the pattern is cut on the side seam. That's why we need to mark our side seam between center back and center front. I cut those and create 2 pieces. And since they are symmetrical, they will be 4 pieces later. So then on the center front panel won't change, but for the center back we'll do same adjustment by reducing the center back at top by 0.5 centimeters and adjust it on the side. So our patterns are ready. We can open them up or mirror them at center front and center back if we don't want to have a seam at those points. Otherwise we can have a seam at center front and center back. Creating waistband is same as the full circle, so I won't even change my waistband, and I just put it on my avatar and do the arrangement for the pieces and sew my skirt again. For this skirt I have chosen a flannel fabric, and I will change the grain line to bias because I want to have it like the image you see, and I can change my grain line, I can change the size of my check pattern, with the texture tool, edit texture tool, both in 3D and 2D window. So this is the final skirt, and now we can move to the last circle skirt we have, which is a quarter circle. So this is how you can draw the circle for a quarter circle skirt. For calculating R, you need to divide waist measurement by 1.57 and add it to the skirt length. Draw the big circle first, then draw the smaller circle, and do the same process that we have done before. Cut and throw out the 3/4 of a skirt because you only need a quarter of it. Waistband is same as previous skirts, so we can sew it and put it on our avatar. The important point about this skirt is that because it has the least volume, it might be tight around a high hip area. That's why we need to do some adjustment for this skirt and add a little bit on the center front or line to have more room at hip, and then remove it from the side seam like you see in this diagram. So because we cannot add this amount to the side of our pattern, I need to cut my pattern at center front, considering that this will be my fold line. I cut it and offset my center front line by 1.5 centimeters or whatever amount you think you're gonna need for your hip. Then I adjust my side seam. I need to remove these 1.5 centimeters and draw a curve from waistline to where I think my hip line is. It's not mentioned in the diagram, so you just draw a nice curve from your waist and reach the hip line. Then you can mirror your skirt at center front, and you'll have your pattern. If you even check the fit and compare it with when you didn't have this additional amount, you'll see that your hip has more room around it and it's not as close to the avatar as it was before. I'll apply the same flannel fabric here, and she can wear it with a black top, and our skirt is done. Thank you so much for watching this video with me, and see you next Saturday.